With the introduction of the battle modifiers, a lot of pro players and myself have really been experimenting with different armies. Personally, I have tested out well over 5 different variants of Rage Gem with Root Riders, and I've come to the conclusion that the Log Launcher variant of the army is just simply the best army in the game right now. Over the last 24 attacks, well within the top 500 of the new Legends League system, I've only failed 4 attacks using this army, so evidently it is really strong. That being said though, it does add an extra layer of complexity to Rage Gem with Root Riders. Yes, people call it a really easy spam army, but I completely disagree. Adding the Log Launcher to this army makes it significantly harder, but also significantly stronger. That is of course because previously, most of you guys are used to just placing down your troop launcher and forgetting about your siege machine. But now you need to think about your RC charge, your Log Launcher and your Root Riders. So naturally, I've been bombarded with comments of people asking, how do I use this army? It's way harder, etc. But don't worry, today I'm going to explain how you can identify a good Log Launcher, when to use the Troop Launcher over the Log Launcher, and other tips and tricks which should help you level up your attacks in Legends League. So without further ado, let's get into the first segment. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how to choose when to use a Log Launcher and then how to center your RC charge around that. Now, beforehand, I would be looking for RC charge value. Now I look, can I get a good troop launcher on this base? And as you can see in this example, there is a nice Log Launcher into the Mono, Poison Tower, and Inferno Tower. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I mean, specifically when I say Log Launcher value, because it does entail a lot of other things. But for now, let's just say these buildings, you can see it's quite a nice path through the base there and cutting through the middle. So once I've spotted that Log Launcher, I then want to center my RC charge to enable that Log Launcher. So as you can see here, I'm cutting off these buildings on this right hand corner so that my Log Launcher has a fairly nice, I guess you could call it like uncontested entry. So my RC charge was going super nicely here. Now if I can't spot a Log Launcher, that's when I'm thinking Troop Launcher. Now traditionally, poison bases tend to have more Log Launcher value than the double rage ring bases. So I guess just something to think about yourselves. Now, I go with the Giant Arrow, the Earthquake spell, then the Log Launcher. Now, something that's very important that we're going to talk more about a little bit later in this video is making sure that your queen stays safe. If your queen does walk into the core, she is going to die, no doubt. Which is why I like to use my Ice Golems at the start to support my queen and the Giant. But as you can see, the Log Launcher value here was insanity. Unfortunately, the Giant does get targeted by a bunch of rocket balloons, and he does go down. But in the long run, we have got good value here. You can see we've set a nice path through the base. We've completely gutted the entire core of this base here. I'm just going to speed it up here because the rest is history for this base. Again, so to recap the first segment here, I'm looking for a good Log Launcher. If I spot good Log Launcher value, I try and RC charge to enable that Log Launcher to be safe. And also, of course, then that enables the Log Launcher to get even more value. On top of that, if I can't find a Log Launcher, I'm just going for my default Troop Launcher. And as I said, more common on rage bases. But I want to show you guys what I mean by that right now. Okay, so jumping into a snippet of this replay here, I want to show you guys what I mean about using the Troop Launcher when you can't find any Log Launcher value. And on this attack, I really did force myself to use a Log Launcher. This is not a habit you want to get in. You can use a Troop Launcher, it is still strong, but if you can find good Log Launcher value, that is when you want to be using the Log Launcher. Now, in this case, I don't know what I was thinking, but again, I thought it's a really good example to show you guys of how you can force the Troop Launcher onto your attacks and make things worse than they were before. So on this occasion, I got a nice amount of heroic value. We got a Fire Spitter, we got a Poison Tower, we got a lot of stuff, is what I'm trying to say. Now, in this case, I should have just gone opposite side with my Root Rider entry, but instead, I decided to use a Log Launcher here. Now, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about why this Log Launcher is so bad when I talk about value in the next segment of this video. But you can see, why am I going for a Log Launcher here? There's barely any value. Already, we've had to invest a free spell to keep the queen alive. The Log Launcher is going right into a load of damage. The CC's being lured, and it's all very messy. Now, compared to the other replay, we barely even get down a Ricochet Cannon Expo and Crusher Mortar using our queen entirely and our troops, okay? So this is an example of where I should have switched to the Troop Launcher. I shouldn't have tried to force the Log Launcher onto your hits. It's easily done, but remember, there isn't lug launcher value on every single base. Do not force a lug launcher onto every single attack. As I said, it will make things worse. But let's get to the next segment of the video. Okay, so moving on to the next segment of this video, I want to talk about what I mean about lug launcher value. Now, if you guys have previously watched my RC charge guide video, you will know I suggest you do 3 things with your RC charge: safety, pathing, value. It's the exact same thing with the lug launcher. So when I talk about safety with the lug launcher, I mean, you know, it's not going to get targeted straight away. There's not going to be bombs, there's not going to be a NATO. The queen isn't going to die. There isn't a ricochet cannon. There isn't a mono. There isn't enemy heroes that are going to really quickly make work of your lug launcher. So I thought this base right here was a great example of that, right? You may be looking at this base and thinking, oh, wow, really good lug launcher value. If I just, you know, I don't know, lug launcher like this through the base, right? You should be able to get, I don't know, the Crushing Mortar, the Inferno Tower, and the Expo. Well, let's take a step back. There is too much stuff here. Enemy heroes, specifically the Minion Prince and the King, plus an Inferno Tower and the Mono. That's a really big indicator to me that very quickly my queen, you know, without the support of like a magic mirror or something, she's going to die super quick. The Giant's going to get locked onto really quickly. Even if I was bringing a Skelly Spell, it would get melted by the Inferno Tower. So, again, lug launcher, in terms of value, that encompasses safety as well. If your lug launcher is not going to be safe, if your queen is not going to be safe, that does affect the amount of value that you can get. Does that make sense? How those two things are kind of entwined with safety and, of course, value. Now, the second thing is pathing. So what exactly do I mean by pathing, you might ask? Well, I mean pathing into the base, pathing through the core. Effectively, you want to try and use your troop launcher, as we saw in the first replay, to maybe extend the path for your Root Riders, keep them nice and tight, because that is when the healers are most effective. On bases like this, with an Invis Tower in the core, I like to use the lug launcher and the Giant Arrow with the Earthquake spell to actually path my Root Riders into the base. So, there's 2 different ways I'm using the lug launcher. Number 1, I'm RC charging, then I'm going with the lug launcher in the middle, then I'm going my Root Riders on the outside of the base. Let's actually do a different colour for the Roots. Let's do red for the Root Riders, okay? Does that make sense? There's another variant that I do as well. In some cases, I'll do Spirit Charge, Root Riders into the middle, and the lug launcher pushing the Root Riders into the core. Now, this is most applicable for this style of Invis Tower plus Rage Tower base. Now, this base I didn't actually end up using the lug launcher because I thought the lug launcher and the Root Rider entry down here was just quite risky. It looks very scary. But in most cases, if you've watched my videos before, you will see this. I always like to do this on Invis bases or areas with a stacked core. And that is because I want to be able to push my Root Riders into the core. I don't want them to go on the outside of the base. Now, previously, if you're a long-time watcher of this channel, you will know I used to deal with these Invis Towers by going around them and circling around them with the Healing Tome. But now that I have the Eternal Tome, that is no longer necessary. I can just run my Root Riders right into the core, Eternal Tome, and quickly smash through that section of the base. So that is what I mean when I say lug launcher for pathing. Not as important as safety, but still important. Then the final thing that you're looking for, which is actually slightly more important than pathing for the lug launcher, is value. When I say value, I mean buildings, Crushing Mortar. Can you take down a Monolith? Can you get a Spell Tower down? Can you get a Fire Spitter down? Can you avoid the Fire Spitter? Can you take down the CC? Etc, etc. These are things you want to be looking for, and that is normally the biggest indicator to me if I want to be using the lug launcher or not, if I can see good value effectively. And on this base, personally, I couldn't, especially when the Town Hall is off to the side a bit, you know. Let's say I even tried lug launchering over here. There's barely any buildings here. It's bad value. It's going to be safe, but again, bad value. Just worth taking the troop launcher as opposed to the lug launcher in this case. So that is really everything that I can talk about on the lug launcher. But I do have a couple more things to speak about. So let's get right into the next segment. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about, which kind of leads on from the previous segment, is variants of lug launcher. As I said, sometimes I like to let the lug launcher effectively continue the path for the Root Riders, but in some cases, I actually use it to push the Root Riders into a specific area. And as I said, that is most applicable on these invis bases. Now, I know a lot of you guys struggle on this style of invis base. They are tricky, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to show you guys this replay, and you're going to think, how am I failing? How am I failing these bases? Because, well, look, you'll see in a second. So, what I do is I first spot an RC charge, generally on the opposite side of the town hall. So notice that the town hall on this base is towards the 2 o'clock side of the base there. I'm going to be spirit walking one of these bottom sides, and as you can see, I get a really nice amount of spirit walk value there with my RC charge. Now, watch this. Hold on. When am I going to do it? There we go. Double ice on them. Remember, safety is very important. Your queen is quite vulnerable. She doesn't have a lot of health. She is a bit flimsy without any giant ahead of her. So that is why I went safe there with that. Now, Root Rider's there. For some reason on this attack specifically, I accidentally placed my RC with my heroes. So we've kind of got a 3 hero dive here with Root Riders on the inside. So obviously don't do that, but look at the value that this log launcher was able to get. We basically take down the town hall just with the log launcher. We have the Yetis, the queen, all moving in there. Then I like to go for an overgrowth spell in the middle. Now, even though my Root Riders didn't go where they wanted them to go, because again, they were just quite slow without the RC, the entire core was demolished by the by the log launcher, CC, Giant, and Queen. Did you guys see that? The entire core was demolished. Now, that's generally not what I want to happen. I want the Root Riders to go in and grab it, but you guys can see the value that I was able to get there from that log launcher. That was quite crazy. Now, obviously, things got a little bit messy here with me placing my RC in completely the wrong place. Again, don't do that. But I hope this replay, helps you to understand the different types or different ways that I'm using the log launcher. Now, again, I don't use this variant of log launcher that commonly, but I thought I'd want to show you guys. So let's get into the next segment of the video. Just kidding, no more things to talk about around the log launcher army. I think I've covered basically everything that you guys need to know about the log launcher. So hopefully that answers every single question. If you have more questions, let me know in the comments. I may make a part 2, etc. But let's quickly recap exactly what I've yapped about in this video. In the start of the attack, I'm looking for a log launcher, a good log launcher. Again, safety, value, pathing. If I can't find a good log launcher, I'm going for a troop launcher, and I'm doing a normal spirit charge. If I can find a good log launcher, I want to do a spirit charge that's going to enable the log launcher to be where I want it to be. Okay? Then we want to be looking for this log launcher. We want to be thinking, hey, safety, value, pathing, as I've said before. And also, you can use that slightly different variant of log launcher, which is kind of pushing your Root Riders into the core, as opposed to kind of assisting them and making that path extended in a way. So, if this guide helped you out, make sure to smash the subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 10k subscribers by the end of the month. Why not? Let's say it. By by November, we want to be at 10k subs. I think we can do it. We need probably about 1,700 subs. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that. But like, subscribe. If this video has helped you out, let me know your comments, thoughts, whatever you want to say in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And thank you guys for coming out to this one. I'll see you guys again for another video tomorrow. Goodbye.